4 final questions as we round the bases, some lighthearted or some more serious ones as well. Let's start with this. I could come up with a million answers, certainly in the television world. Do you have a favorite sort of blooper, oh my gosh, this just happened moment that will stick with you from the stage?
Yeah, the time I went on stage speaking in front of a very large audience and my fly was open.
Ugh.
And you know what? We went back and watched the video. And thank goodness we couldn't see it. But seriously, the fly was open.
There's nothing worse. You just hope
Yeah.
there's that, the embarrassment when one person is kind enough to tell you and you're like, well, I didn't buy it. Okay. But now there's how many?
Yeah.
And you live to talk about it. So,
I live to talk about it and tell about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Second question, as we round the bases, you've traveled all over the world. You've spoken, if my information is correct, 30 countries, 5 different continents. I also saw that you lived in Alaska at one point. So I guess 2-part question. What was it like to live in Alaska? Do you have a favorite country that you have spoken in?
Yeah. Favorite country that I love speaking in is Singapore. I mean, that's without a doubt. I mean, Singapore and Australia are the 2 places that I would move to in a heartbeat. So I absolutely love. Okay, you gotta. What was I doing in Alaska? I was managing a McDonald's restaurant in Alaska.
No, really?
Yeah, seriously. And at that time, it was the second highest volume McDonald's in the world. Guam was number 1. Fairbanks, Alaska, where I was number 2, and I was 19 years of age. Yeah.
Wow.
You talk about learning leadership and management and supply chain logistics. Yeah, you learn it. You learned it real quick as a 19-year-old.
Wow. All right, that's good stuff. And that'll segue. I can't even speak. It happens every now and then. That will segue me to, that reminds me of a blooper that I had in TV, like my first year, and I'm doing a northern Wisconsin small TV station, and I'm sitting at a bar. I'm not drinking. I'm reporting for a Bears-Packers game between an older Bears fan and an older Packers fan. I'm doing this recorded bit between them, and it took me 20 times. I just kept stumbling on the same thing over and over again. Anyway, I will move on. My third question, as we round the bases, pertaining to some of that travel, is that if the numbers that I saw are correct, you're traveling something like 230 or 200 something nights a year. Some people have that in them, some people don't. But I do believe that in order to do it, you have to have a lot of that routine that you've talked about. I'm lucky enough that with all my travel for baseball, we're gone every other week for 6 months, flying on charter planes and nice hotels, everything's set up for you. But you still have to have a routine and get into that rhythm. What is the secret for you to traveling 230 days a year?
You don't let anything phase you. You just roll it. You know what? If I miss the connection, I miss the connection. There's another flight. If you know what, things always have a way of working out. Funny story. I was speaking in Japan. I was speaking in Kyoto, Japan, last March. Got in the car to go to the airport. There are 2 airports in Kyoto. The driver took me to the wrong airport. The airline I was to fly didn't even fly into that airport. And it was like, what do I do? First of all, I got to find somebody who speaks English. Anyway, long roundabout story. They finally put me on a bus and I was able to get there. And I got to my flight home with about 20 minutes to spare. And it's like, you know what? It didn't even faze me. It was like, yeah, it's the way it is. I called my wife when I was on the bus and she said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm on a bus. What happened? She says, aren't you scared? I said, no big deal. This is really kind of interesting. This is a unique experience. And I'm like, you just roll with it.
Yeah, just roll with it. We had a baseball player, 06, 07. Before I got to Kansas City, I was with the St. Louis Cardinals. That was a rookie and showed up very late to Shea Stadium for the Cardinals-Mets game. Now, whether he made up the story or legitimately because he overslept or because this genuinely happened, but he claims that the cab driver took him to Yankee Stadium instead of Shea Stadium. And whether that was actually true or a convenient excuse, the amount of ribbing and pranks and things that happened to him afterwards as a rookie were like a lifetime's worth of stories. Anyway, I will move on to my walk-off question. And I know this will be an easy one for you, but I want to ask it as a source of inspiration, because when you talk to our NSA chapter here in Kansas City, you made a comment about the importance of taglines. And that could be certainly true as a speaker, but I think there's a deeper message, because when we talk about influencing people, whether it be in sales, making an impact, people remember those little bites. People hear something in their head. If you've been paying attention and listening to Mark throughout the course of the last 38 minutes, you will have heard a bunch of really good nuggets in there. They're short, they were quick, they were repeated. Oftentimes you repeated them a second time. And I'm curious if you have a favorite tagline or line that either resonates with you, or that is that aha moment for people.
Yeah, it's one of the first lines I came up with. Sales is leadership. Leadership is sales. The reason being is this. You look at a great leader, what are they doing? They're selling. You look at a great salesperson, what are they doing? They're leading. It's amazing how sales is leadership. Leadership is sales.
And people remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I mean,
only a couple words.
Well, right. And they usually kind of relate. But I think, look, you can come up with something hokey, but if it doesn't mean anything, then whatever, we're going to move on. I mean, the one that I wrote down that you had said to our group is that in the absence of trust, price becomes everything.
That's right.
And there's just a greater message back to everything we talked about, people and trust and playing the long game. And I mean, I find it, maybe it's not ironic, but I find it perfect symbolically that here's a guy that preaches playing the long game that is going to go run a marathon. And that really, that marathon, no, it symbolizes the way you've gone about everything. Now I got to figure out a different way to do that, as we have discovered. But Mark, I can't thank you enough for the inspiration, the words of wisdom, not just for me, but for everybody that is listening. I encourage everybody to check out the books, check out the website, thesaleshunter.com. There's a good chance if you're a big company that you're aware of Mark, but if you're not, check it out, because you should definitely hire him. And really, really appreciate all the time that you spent, Mark.
Hey, thank you so much, Joel.